Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll be making our NHL and NBA conference champion picks and continuing our ongoing multi-year long betting competition. We'll also talk a little bit about the NFL offseason news and the upcoming draft. May have our early picks at the early round of a mock draft that we've each done or will be doing. But we'll lead off today's show with the Kansas City Royals. Their hot start is still maybe cooling off a bit. They still have a winning record, but they have dropped their last three games where they are right now. Mike, is the bloom maybe falling off of the rose here, or is it maybe just a bit of a little hiccup because they're playing tougher teams right now? What do you think?
I hope just because they're playing some tough teams, but I'm afraid that it might be Cinderella's coach turning back into a pumpkin. But I'm not really sure. I think it's probably somewhere in between. Maybe I hope leaning even toward they played good teams lately. Baltimore is pretty good. Um, they're playing against the Blue Jays now, are a good team. They played the Astros, who we thought were going to be a good team, they haven't been good so far. They played well, so like it's
I think Astros so far they may be like one of the worst teams in the American League right
yeah,
now, which is
yeah,
really shocking.
yeah. You think that's not going to last? You don't think,
Yeah.
but yeah, they
They're,
drew up on
they're
Chicago
the next to last team in the AL. The White Sox are the
White Sox. Yeah, the Royals are really beating up on those two teams, which
yes.
is good. So but they didn't even beat up on the cellar dwellers, the last few years. So it's good. I think that they can do that. So I'm guessing it's mostly the quality of the opposition that is influencing them. We'll wait another week or so and see. But um, it looked like again before it's up. The Royals are up 3-2 right now in the seventh or eighth inning.
Seventh, I think. Yeah.
In the seventh, and
Yeah, seventh.
and they were down. They
And
were
that's
down.
in game two of the Toronto series.
They were down 2-0 in the second game of Toronto. Like they were getting down. They've been getting down early and then trying to claw back, and usually it hasn't been working. The last several games. That's what they've all seemed to be like. So maybe it's the pitching hasn't been quite as good. The hitting hasn't been quite as timely. Um,
Or at least not early in the game, because like the last several games they haven't scored in the first 5 innings or so.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's hopefully those are just blips because they're playing good teams and good pitching.
They've
Um,
managed to stay in almost every game except that uh, one game against the final game of the series against the Blue Jays where they got shut out 5-0 and never really threatened against Baltimore. Yeah,
use the Orioles, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, they're some of their managerial decision making has come up again as being issues. Lineup construction and some bullpen selections have not made sense, and it seems to be like really biting them at times.
Yeah,
Although it looks like Pasquantino just missed a home run, just barely foul. That would have been a 3-run home run. That was too bad. I thought they were gonna put him way up. No, that was foul. Yeah. Oh well.
oh well. So the
No.
Royals have to hold on to a smaller lead, it looks like. But yeah, I'm still somewhat optimistic. I'm not. I probably was too down to begin with, then got too excited, and now hopefully my optimism will be on par with reality.
I think you said that before we started the show that the fan graph still has the Royals just below 500 now for the season.
Yeah, 79-83 is the production is the projection at Fangraphs. So it was up to 81 to 81 and 81 a couple maybe last week's episode, but the Royals have lost I think 4 or 5, so it's slipped a little bit.
And like you said though, these are against good opponents and not the bottom of the barrel. So
Good,
hopefully,
yeah, two of the
this
best.
is the internal struggle that Royals fans will, I assume, all have, is that the you don't want to get too confident and you don't want to
No,
be prevented from complaining about something that always has irked you about the team too at the same time.
yeah. You and Quatrero have a they haven't seen eye to eye. I would say.
And really the GM too. I don't like a lot of the choices that they made and like the free agent signings. Like they could have gone full youth movement instead of trying to combine, trying to build some trade pieces with their free agency signings, and they have not really panned out very well. And
You
those
think
things I
you
find
think you think Piccolo has been is he just an extension of what Dayton Moore was
100%.
his latter years and when the
Yeah.
Royals were doing so well?
I don't think you can distinguish between the two. The decision making seems to be the same, and it was dumb when Moore did it, and they fired Moore because of his decision making, and they're continuing making the same decisions because his protege is who took over. So yes,
I don't know. We'll see. I'm. It seems like the recent decisions, recent. I guess since the Royals have been playing pretty well, and all these guys are most of all the good ones are from, homegrown talent. So maybe it seems like maybe they're doing something a little better than they had been. So who knows? But I guess you could say that goes back. A lot of those draft picks would go back to Moore, wouldn't they? Or is Piccolo? How long is Piccolo?
more Piccolo combos. Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, because Piccolo was like their like advanced, like their minor league development guy before they promoted him to the general manager.
Yeah.
And technically he was the general manager the last couple of years that Moore was there too. So
Hmm.
that wasn't a new role for him anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Moore had been like promoted to like president of operations, and
Yeah.
so he wasn't technically the GM, but the decision making still had to go
I
through
think
him.
he was actually called GM, but he may not have been he was called general manager since the other guy was called the president, but maybe he wasn't he was really the assistant to the general manager.
Yes, assistant general manager or assistant to the general manager. Right, it's an
Assistant
important designation.
it is a assistant or the assistant to the assistant to to the regional manager that that's what one of the last episodes of the series had that and Dwight became his own assistant's assistant.
Right, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, his own assistant's assistant. Cleaning people came in at an opportune time.
Yes, but he basically became his own assistant, right? Wasn't that what it was?
His own assistant's assistant.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good show, The Office. They keep talking about rebooting it. Have you heard that?
Yes,
I think that's
and
going to
we
happen.
talked about reboots last week, and
Yeah, I,
it sounded like they had signed a few people had signed on to the project, and I can't remember who it was. I just saw a story about it, and it was like somebody somewhat surprisingly, I think.
oh, let's see. So it's not the same. There's none of the original Office people.
No, I think it's like new people with new things.
Oh,
Oh, it's Donald Gleason, who I think
oh,
we talked about a couple weeks ago for something else.
really?
Um,
Not, Donald Gleason's gonna be he's gonna be in it.
yeah,
He was General Hux in the new Star Wars movies, and he's been in a lot of. He was in Harry Potter. He was a really good theater actor. He's really funny. He was what was that? What was did you watch that show on Amazon that was it was in Ireland, and Donald Gleason and his brother played these kind of dumb neighbors of each other and friends of each other.
Oh, yes, that sounds familiar. Somebody of Ireland or something. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
It was somebody's name of
Frank
Ireland.
Frank Frank of Ireland, I think, right?
Frank of Ireland.
Yeah. Did you enjoy
Yes, I did see that.
did you enjoy that program?
It was kind of entertaining, actually. He was like the sort of even dumber friend, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the yeah.
Frank was he was very dumb, but it's
Yeah.
somehow like, yeah,
I think you were more emotionally attached to Donald Gleason's character because I think he was Doofus, that's what he was, his name. Because he was I think he Frank was kind of mean and dumb sometimes, and Doofus
right,
was he was never mean. You just feel bad for I think you just feel worse for him because
right,
he was a good guy.
yeah. I did see the series Run that he was into. That was a pretty decent show, at least anyway. The Patient with Steve Carell
I haven't seen
was
that.
pretty good. He played a really mentally unstable person in that one. He did a good job with it though.
Besides being in Frank of Ireland, he was in the movie Frank with the weird band movie with the guy with the big head. Did you ever see that one?
Not sound familiar.
I was confusing it with I was thinking it was Robot in Frank. Did you see
Oh,
that one? With
no, it doesn't sound familiar. Yeah.
it was Robot and Frank uh was this movie with Frank Langella in it. And,
Oh,
and he played this kind of old guy who bought a robot, and but he wasn't retired jewel thief, and he decided to get back in the game by trading this robot to rob jewelry stores with him. Like
nice.
this kind of humanoid kind of robot that was like a toy looking thing to help him rob jewelry stores. It was
Nice.
supposedly there, I think, because he was going kind of having like um, mental acuity loss and things like that, supposed to help ward off dementia and things like that. But it became his criminal uh, aid.
Nice.
Yeah.
But that did not have Donald Gleason in it.
No, Rowan Frank, no. The closest to Donald Gleason, maybe Peter Sarsgaard. No.
He
Uh,
wasn't in three shows with the name Frank in the title.
no, he wasn't. Well, there wasn't I don't see a big Star Wars. Um, uh, I don't see a big Star Wars presence in the cast, but there is a Lord of the Rings presence. Liv Tyler was
Hmm.
in Robot and Frank as one of his daughters, I think, or his daughter, one of his children. Uh,
Was that? Did you see if anybody else was signed in for that The Office reboot?
oh, I was thinking about Robot and Frank. Uh, going off the rails. The Office reboot. Is that somebody from the White Lotus signed on? Sabrina Impacciatore.
Oh, she must have been from season two then, I guess.
I haven't seen the White Lotus, so I don't. That's why I decided to say her name in an impassioned, overzealous Italian accent in the
Yeah,
memory of Vinny Pastano, who was Ryan Lefevre's favorite name to pronounce. Even though he doesn't say Vinny Pasquantino, he says just Vinny Pasquantino. Or Nick Prado. He also the other Italian, or is I think Prado is Italian, isn't he?
I assume so.
Or is it maybe um I don't know, some like Croatian or something, and just spelled there's no information on his Wikipedia page.
But does he have a nickname or something that would
Last name's
tell?
Nick. So you think, okay, maybe that's Nicholas Michael Pronto. Uh,
Yeah, they don't. Sometimes they have like nicknames on on Baseball Reference, but
Just from California, Huntington Beach. His
yeah,
parents, Jeff Prado and Laura somebody.
it's not helping, is it?
No, Jeff's not the most Italian name, but they do call it. They do often say Prato in a very over rather than Prato. So it could be Italian. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but not as Italian as Vinny. Um, Speaking of really Italian names, Ben DiNucci is the third quarterback in a new third quarterback in Denver because they've brought in, well, they still have Jared Stidham, but they also brought in the
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was waiting for you to say.
Huge
I was waiting for you to
blockbuster
say Zach Wilson.
trade
I think I miscommunicated it.
in the
Yeah,
last couple days. Yes.
Zach Wilson was traded for a chance to move up from the seventh round to the sixth round, basically, and half of his salary
Yeah.
by the Jets. That wasn't a lot of money that the Broncos gave up. So now they're paying like $40 million. So they're paying like how much? $38 million plus to Pittsburgh for
Yes.
Russell Wilson to play for the uh, Steelers, and they're receiving $3 million for um,
Half
uh,
half of Wilson's salary to be the
salary.
backup in theory to Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, you think, but
What it
maybe.
maybe seems like.
Yeah, I think that's how they're listed now. I don't know. Stidham for a while, at one point was viewed as a future starter, either for the Raiders or for the Patriots, but that hasn't really worked out. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll hear. But I would imagine that Sean Payton thinks he can work with Zach Wilson and turn him into a solid quarterback. Or is this just a smokescreen for they're going to draft JJ McCarthy or somebody of that ilk in the NFL draft, and poor Ben DiNucci's going to be uh, hitting the bricks.
I mean, it seems like they're probably going to try to draft somebody. It doesn't really make sense if that's what the quarterbacks they plan on going into the regular season. That doesn't seem like how you could compete in the division at all.
Well, I don't know if do they want to defeat, do they want to compete in the division, or do they want to set themselves up for a very high draft pick next year?
Or do they have draft picks next year? Are they still are the is that draft pick still part of the Russell Wilson trade from before? I don't know if they're done with the fallout from that signing yet.
They have 2024. Let's see. They have the 2025. They have a one, two, three, four, five, two sixes, and a seven. Um, and
It
yeah,
was
so
it was only two first round picks that
one, two, yeah,
Denver gave up for Russell Wilson.
but yeah, they have a first. Um, so
They're back to having a first round pick next year.
yeah, so they finished 3-14 or something like that. Maybe they'll. I don't. The
You'd
quarterback
think you
class.
wouldn't want to take another year off. It seems like if you get a quarterback this year, you should
Well, I think they
have
think.
them sit for a year if you can.
I think they think they're rebuilding though in other ways. So maybe they want to.
But then it's going to be a 2 more year process. Is Sean Payton going to want to wait that long to?
I would maybe, or you think it was Denver ownership want to wait that long? They must, if so, they must have like an agreement with Peyton to rebuild because maybe they're waiting for Herbert to be too much salary and drag down the Chargers, and maybe they think Mahomes will be old by the time they get good, so they have a window.
That seems silly to
I don't
think
know.
that way, but that doesn't mean they won't.
Yeah, I don't know what the Broncos are thinking. They unveiled new uniforms Did you see that?
No.
They look pretty similar to the current uniform. They have like mountains on the sleeves and kind of mountain imagery that looks like kind of implied throughout the uniform. And they are having the old Orange Crush throwback as an option that I think all the fans of the Broncos want them to switch back to those uniforms. But
Like on the for the regular uniforms?
yeah,
Yeah.
would you think the Broncos would look better? Should they be in those old uniforms, or do you like the more, I guess, the newer? I guess they're associated with winning Super Bowls with those uniforms. They only
Seems like you
only
should do that.
lost
Yeah.
only lost Super Bowls with the old uniforms.
Especially like the long like the storied franchises. I don't know why they bother like having newer uniforms in general. It seems like you should just stick with the old ones that everybody knows and loves. Don't you think?
Yeah, but they've had more success though with the new ones. But just kind of like the Patriots, the flying Elvis Patriot has done better than the old Pete Patriot, the guy snapping the ball. Would you rather see if you had to have old uniforms? Which team would you pick the old Patriots uniforms? They also didn't have much success in those old uniforms compared to the new ones. Just like maybe the Buccaneers, the creamsicle Buccaneers also kind of had more success with the more modern ones.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you wouldn't want to change your uniforms if you've had like that, whatever uniform you had during your era where you've done the best is kind of the ones you should stick with until
Yeah.
you've fallen off and then are starting back up again.
It's yeah,
And
I
then
can't
and then like on your way back up, maybe you change your uniforms to something new. Then that can be associated with the new, you know, rise of your franchise. But I don't know why you change uniforms like in a weird era. Anyway,
yeah, I
they update these things every so often anyway, but
I can't think of a team that's in a uniform that now where they were in a better where we're more successful in a previous uniform. I think maybe because of the Jets. They're I think converting back to the 80s Jets logo this year. So
hmm.
but they won the Super Bowl when they had the old like football Jets helmets, the kind of previous throwback that they had they brought back when like Vinny
Hmm.
Testaverde was the quarterback and things like that. But
The uniform set that I've never understood was when they started doing the Thursday night game when they went to the all one color uniforms, where it
yeah,
looked like ketchup versus mustard and stuff like
yeah.
that. It's like
I don't
I
like
don't like this at all.
I don't like the monochrome. I like monochrome look in basketball and baseball, but not football and maybe not
Yeah.
hockey. I kind of like the opposite as well.
But I think we both agree that like baseball, where the manager wears the uniform, that the coaches should wear the uniform in football though. Am I right?
I think they should. No, well, that'd be funny if they wore the jersey. I kind of like the NFL coaching attire. I have a
You
pa
wouldn't want to see Andy Reid like in the full pads and the helmet.
I don't want you want the pads and helmet. You want the whole
I
whole.
want the whole thing. I think that's what they should do.
I think that's well. I think they should. I like the. I think the old guys in the suits. I always found funny, or like the Mike Ditka sweater. I think could be the go-to.
Yes.
Or Bill Parcells sweater. Like those like '80s sweaters. Would be I think good as mandatory coach wear.
Would the NBA be the funniest to have to wear the same uniform as the
Uniform.
players?
They could wear it under their warm-up suit because like the players when they're sitting on the bench they wear the warm-ups usually. Uh,
Yes.
so I would say the coach would probably wear the warm-ups. But it would be fun if he had underneath the as a regular uniform that like if he got real heated he would take it off and threaten to go in or something like that.
Yes.
But I think the real reason is that partly that the managers in baseball still wear the uniforms is that they're often on the field doing things in the middle of the field, where in basketball and football and hockey they're supposed to
Yeah.
stay off the playing surface.
Yeah.
So that's my guess maybe. And also, the uniforms are a little more flattering for a older, fatter guy. Uh, So maybe I think that, but that's my that's maybe a practical reason. Like, you have all the coaches, every coach is wearing a uniform basically. So
Yeah. Yeah, only the trainers, I guess, don't wear.
yeah, I was just saying, why do the trainers wear the uniforms? Why do they have to dress in? Is there something that is more medically appropriate when they just wear their kind of performance pants and polo shirts? Is
Yeah.
that somehow more, maybe it's more medically respected? You wouldn't maybe want a doctor in a baseball uniform,
Why don't they just wear scrubs then? I mean, if they're gonna do that anyway, right?
scrubs. Yeah, well, scrubs are impractical. You need cleats. You have to have scrubs and cleats or something, probably. That would be impractical.
That would be amusing though, wouldn't it?
It also maybe would frighten somebody more because they think this is going to be a real medical procedure now that's going to be happening on the field rather than. But I think it should be it should look like the doctor in his office, kind of with a lab coat and the stethoscope and
Yes, wrapped around
and like a dress shoes and
the bag that they have to carry, like the full medical bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the most. I think that's what trainers uh, should wear as their uniforms.
Yes.
But we were talking about the football draft, I think, before we went off.
Maybe one more piece of news before we get into the draft stuff, though, about the Chiefs themselves. Anyway,
Oh, the
have
Chiefs. Yeah, we can talk about the Chiefs themselves. Yeah,
extended the contracts of all of the top brass through the 2029 season. Mike, is that you find that exciting?
I guess it's nice that you think that Reed's gonna hold out that long. Um, Reach is pretty young, so it's good that he's also been cemented for 5 more years. But yeah, it's a little. I'm pleasantly surprised that Reed did that. So maybe that indicates that he wants to coach that much longer, or at least look like he wants to coach uh, longer. So yeah, was it Mark Donovan, the president, who was the other?
Was the third, yes, member of this.
Oh, he had
Uh,
some, I guess, some iffy commentary related to the uh, vote a few weeks ago now, that stadium vote. I think he threatened that the Chiefs might move if the vote didn't pass the way he wanted it to. So
uh, yeah, uncertain times on that front for sure, though, and then and that would be the group that would then be making some of the decision, at least anyway. The team president would possibly have a say in the team's location.
maybe, yeah. I don't think they're gonna move, maybe outside of Jackson County, they might move to Wyandotte County.
Yeah,
That's Johnson County.
even, even worse.
Maybe
Um,
they'll.
the Royals just secured the victory, 3-2 win. James McArthur pitched the eighth and ninth inning, playoff baseball style, closed
To
it in 2 innings.
Old Quisenberry.
Yes.
Yes, very good. And yeah, not bad.
They've split with Toronto.
Toronto 14-10, so they can't be worse than 14-11 after this
Close to
series.
12. It's actually a 4 game
Oh,
series.
4 game series, 14-12. Okay,
Yeah.
so they could be up to 16-10
Yes.
if they win out, but we'll
Or,
see what,
or somewhere in between.
or somewhere in between. Yeah. 15, yes. 15-11 perhaps. Or maybe there'll be maybe it could be 14-11 because their one game was rained out or postponed, but they probably,
Possible.
if it's the third game, I would guess they would try to play a doubleheader
The
on the
very next day.
day because I don't think Toronto's coming back to Kansas City.
No. Yeah, that and it looks like they do get Toronto again next week in Toronto after they play Detroit. So they'll
Yeah,
be staying up in the Northeast there for the next week.
going from Detroit up to, yeah, they could go through Windsor, Canada, and drive to Toronto. That's a no, that's not a very far
Yeah.
drive. but they'll probably fly, I would guess, but it's not very long flight either. Um,
Even shorter flight, presumably.
yeah. Well, although I don't know, it might take, well, they wouldn't take them as long because they aren't waiting at the airport. But like if you flew
No.
from Detroit to Toronto, um, I guess it takes a while sometimes to get through the border, but it also takes a while to get through customs.
Yeah.
It depends. So if you got a quick drive over the border,
Yep.
maybe
It might still be shorter to drive because it's that close, right?
it's 3 hours and 47 minutes. So it's like from Kansas City to St. Louis.
Yeah. Would you drive from Kansas City, St. Louis, or fly if you had the option?
Well, usually if it's cheaper probably to have a connecting flight from Kansas City to, because then you'd have to, I don't know, gas money and that it might end up being a little cheaper if you're connecting through St. Louis. But if
Yeah.
you're going to St. Louis, I would drive. It's less. You can rent. You don't have to rent a car or whatever if you're staying there, or rely on other people. And it's only 4 hours. So and maybe if you're farther, if you live further east, it seems like a longer drive than it does to us hardy Midwesterners.
I believe the correct answer though was why would I go to St. Louis? It's ridiculous. I wouldn't do either one of those things.
But experience its fine symphony or uh, Emo's Pizza. They do,
Why?
they do have Emo's locations in Kansas City, a couple of them. I kind of like Emo's. It's kind of good. It's like Leo's Pizza in or Leo's Pizza was a little bit like Emo's. And is Leo still around in Kansas City?
I don't think so.
No. Judges isn't around either in that
No, Judges is gone. Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah. No.
end of an era.
So
Well,
how about the draft, Mike? What do you think about the Chiefs prospects in the upcoming draft? Thursday, the draft starts, right?
Thursday the draft starts. First round, second and third rounds are on Friday, and then fourth through seventh are going to be on Saturday. Uh, and
Where is it this year? Is it
in Detroit, I believe. I believe it's in Detroit. So where the Royals are going, that's where
yes,
the
location Detroit?
mhm.
Is the draft something that you watch diligently as a like appointment viewing on television, or do you just kind of like follow along to see what your team does or who's drafted first and then what the Chiefs do?
I usually pay attention to the first round, see what's going on. I like to see what the Chiefs are up to. So I follow in the subsequent rounds. I usually just kind of wait until the Chiefs get drafted. Sometimes you kind of pay a little more attention to the second or third round, just because there are some big name college players or other team players that you think, oh, you wish the Chiefs had gotten that were drafted before the Chiefs drafted or whatever. So I think it's sort of a tapering off to basically only caring about what the Chiefs do in like the later rounds because you aren't really gonna unless maybe it's a local like following like a local player that you like from Iowa State or something like that. You want to where's so and so getting drafted? They got drafted in the fifth round by the Buccaneers or something. That's you might follow that, but otherwise it's just seeing who the Chiefs pick up and like saying, do I know who any of these players are? It seems like the Chiefs rarely draft famous college players in the later rounds. Like so there are some famous college players that go in the later rounds because they fall, but it seems like the Chiefs don't usually get a lot of those. They're almost always, it seems like to me anyway, especially later rounds, like players that seem to be not known terribly well or went to schools that were not.
Hidden
Uh,
gems or yeah, sort of players, right? Yeah.
yeah, they don't get a lot of. Well, maybe they do, but you said Justin Ross was from. I don't just. I guess he was an undrafted free agent, so he wasn't a draft pick. So I was thinking he was a notable college player, but not. I guess he wasn't drafted, so he was I don't mean it's a little different, but I just messed up my own theory, I suppose. But in terms of this year, the Chiefs, who do you think they need? They need. Looks like they need receiver help, whether or not Rashee Rice is in trouble, uh, or
Maybe
maybe
doubly so because of Rashid Rice, but probably anyway.
yeah, and possibly offensive line help because there's no one who's really slated in necessarily to be the left tackle, except unless it's Wandy Morris, and it seems like the Chiefs aren't super enamored with him, but who knows? There's defensive line help because after Chris Jones, it's some of the same old guys. Uh, and it seems like they drafted defensive ends a lot lately, so maybe there would be a interior defensive lineman that might be picked, or maybe somebody in the secondary.
And Minihue is
Yeah,
likely out for the year,
yeah, Menahue is out for at least probably the
most
first.
of the year, if not all of the year.
Yeah, yeah, he's probably that first half of the season at least, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, an edge rusher is somewhat likely that they would go after.
Yeah, I guess you could say they've drafted Carl Aftis and they drafted Anudike yeah, last year. So
And a DK, what is
yeah,
it?
um,
Okafor,
Okafor. No,
Okafor, is that right?
no, where am I
Something
seeing
like
that?
that.
Here
No,
we
that doesn't sound right. It is the Anna DK part's right though.
Uzama.
Uzama.
Yeah, we should edit this part out of our um
Just clip it out. Yeah.
of it out. So Felix Anudike Uzama was drafted last year, and Karlaftis was drafted the year before
Yeah.
at defensive end. So maybe, unless they think Anudike Uzama is not going to be very good, because they think it seems like Karlaftis has really done really well. So, or maybe I guess you could say some top defensive end falls into their lap.
Yeah.
Uh, you never know what's going to
But it
happen.
seems like the draft is heavy in a couple of positions, wide receiver, quarterback, which the Chiefs aren't really interested in. Uh,
Offensive tackle is another
and
is one.
then, yeah, it seems like there are a lot of, yeah, like edge rushers and offensive linemen, I guess, that are going to be
And
likely going in, maybe even in runs of the same position during the draft.
yeah, yeah, there are a few. Yeah, and then it seems like there's always a run on cornerbacks.
Mm.
What's come up, so it seems like that's probably another position. But yeah, I don't. I think I'm leaning receiver
So Chiefs
for
pick 32nd
32nd.
and
Yes,
64th in the first two rounds, right?
32nd and 64th. Yes.
The last pick of each of the rounds. Any chance that they will move up in the draft?
There's always a chance, I think, because if they want a receiver, there are a couple of receiver needy teams ahead of them, like the Bills, um, and uh, maybe it's any of those. The Chargers are probably receiver heavy, and they might, they could draft. They'd have two draft picks, and they could draft a receiver with their first one at number 5, or um, no, that's their only one. That's the only one. I was thinking they had a later one.
When they just lost a couple of receivers to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
The Chargers at number 5. Um,
Was it Mike Williams and
Williams and Keenan Allen both left. So
Gunn? Yeah.
yeah, so they Quentin Johnson they drafted last year in the first round at the end, who was not as productive as people had hoped he would be. So maybe he's I don't know, seen as a buster or at least an underperforming player. But I think the Chiefs will take a receiver. I might do you should we make our prediction?
Sure.
Do you think what position do you think the Chiefs will take? Do you think they'll trade up
I don't think they'll trade up necessarily. I guess, yeah, maybe if they think that the guy that they want is going to be picked by somebody else in the division or something like that, then they may try to jump in front of somebody, but I'd be a little surprised if they do. I think in my mock draft, Mike, I
Yeah.
do the Chiefs taking a wide receiver in the first round and a tackle in the second round. Have you completed your mock draft, or is it still not finalized?
It's not finalized, but I think I have the Chiefs finalized, and I've got the top few final, at least ideas for them.
Yeah.
I have a surprise possibility that might entice you with, but no, so I have the Chiefs. I have the Chiefs taking receiver at 32 and a defensive tackle at 64. What do you have?
I have an offensive tackle
Offensive tackle at
at
64.
64. Yeah.
Okay. So my 30, I think at 32, I think I've seen his name bandied about quite a bit, and I think the Chiefs, maybe even though they've had a lot of success post Tyreek Hill, are still maybe looking for a Tyreek Hill type of player. And I think Xavier Worthy is the one that's the closest to Tyreek in terms of I think a 4.21 40-yard dash, which is the fastest in the combine history. So I think
Wow.
um, I think he might be the pick. He also maybe reminds Andy Reid of Deshaun Jackson, who was one of his best players in Philadelphia. So somebody like that, I could see the Chiefs going for. So that's why I picked Xavier Worthy as the 32nd pick.
I was trying to see where he was ranked in the at PFF. I don't see him yet. Oh, I don't see him right now. I have the Chiefs picking Oregon wide receiver Troy Franklin is if he's still available. He was available in my mock draft because the teams ahead of him did not pick him. So that's where, one person has all of the control versus one person has only control of their own team, at least anyway, in actual football. So
Yeah. Huh. I was looking at Xavier Worthy. The Ringer has him at number 34 on their big board.
nice.
So he was around that value. I think and where was
There he is. He's 69 on PFF.
yeah, 69, but he was undervalued. So he's below value PFF. What about where's Troy Franklin?
Troy Franklin is 29. So he would have to fall a bit if you go strictly by PFF rankings anyway, for the Chiefs to get him at 32.
Troy Franklin is 39 on the Ringers ranking.
Oh. So even these different ranking systems have them all over the place. So
Yeah, yeah. Um,
nice.
yeah, I think after the first four receivers, it's a kind of a crapshoot. There's
Yeah.
guys from Texas, Adonai Mitchell and Worthy, who are both possibilities. There's another Xavier Legette from South Carolina, who might be another possibility. There's a lot of um, there's some talk about whether maybe there's because kind of four clear number. There's uh, the top four receivers are pretty clear. Glad McConkey's up in that area too, of the
Yeah.
receivers that might be around. But um,
But that this going down quite a ways to even get to like, it's like PFF has three wide receivers going in the top seven
yeah,
or six. Three of the top six by position by ranking are wide receivers.
yeah, that's what the Ringer has to be in the top seven, I think, in the wide receivers.
And maybe seven in the top in the first round if you just went by player ranking only. So
It's three in the top six as well for the Ringer. It's top six. So
really,
they have
are they the same three?
Marvin Harrison is number two overall. Malik Neighbors is number five.
Number
Roman
four on
Wilson
PFF.
as six.
Who was
Realm Odunze.
Yes, he's 6 on PFF also.
Brian Thomas Jr. is the next highest related, 22nd from LSU. Next highest. He's seen as kind of consensus number 4 guy.
They have Adonai Mitchell at 22 on PFF and Brian Thomas is 25.
Oh, okay. Brian Thomas is 22, Lad McConkey 27, Adam Mitchell 31 on the big board at the Ringer. I look at their draft stuff quite a bit on the Ringer. I don't know how good it is, but I tend to look at it.
Well, we'll have to see your the Ringer influenced uh mock draft comes out compared to my PFF rank influenced
Yes, we will have to see that.
drafts.
Yeah. Pro Football Focus is interesting because sometimes they like there are teams that seem to really follow it, and then there are other teams that seem to really not.
Go
And
completely off their own uh scouting,
yeah,
I guess, right?
yeah, and you wonder like we had talked about this. Could somebody just rely on commercial scouting sites and do as well in the draft as someone who sent guys everywhere and made this, intricate board that maybe it seems like in some cases some teams are really good at drafting, but a lot of teams aren't. And if you're not good at drafting, why are you spending a lot of money to be not good at drafting instead of just spending a little? Is it maybe some of it's to look professional? I think there's some idea that if you don't have a big scouting department, you don't look professional.
Yeah.
Uh, and like this is one of the things that I think Bill James talked about when we talked about baseball. Bad baseball teams um always try to play like they think they're good baseball teams, but good baseball teams play. They if they can't beat the good baseball teams playing like the good baseball team, why are they doing that? Why wouldn't they try something completely different?
Right.
Uh, but it's mostly because they don't want to look like a bad baseball team that does crazy things. And
Appearance matters.
yeah, yeah, you don't want to seem unprofessional. Even if you're losing if you're losing you're 6-10, 6-11 every year, being a professional organization, maybe there's something else to try. But the NFL has a lot of churning and uh, you know at the top, and at least traditionally, the Chiefs have been able to weather that for several years now. But um, different teams call us top different years. There's always surprises, and usually bad teams aren't down too long. Although I can say like the Raiders have been bad for a long time, the Jets have been bad for a long time. Um, oh, so there are a few teams out there that are um, mostly bad. So maybe they could use some sort of hard reset rather than just following what they're doing. But
So in theory, a bad team could just fire their entire scouting department and just go off of PFF or the Ringer,
or
save some
just
money.
yeah, why not? You think this is one of those things where I want to see like how well if you're especially if you're confident in your ability to develop players, uh, you might say, well, I think we're better at developing than we are at drafting, so maybe we should um, just not worry about the draft and just worry about the development, and so we can draft. Or we have more room for error if we can get the most out of our players. So that I think you could maybe say you could really get a really high paid coaching staff if
Yeah,
you
spend that money elsewhere, right? Like
yeah.
if
Although
you
maybe I don't
the
know how much
royals can.
scouts make. Maybe scouts only make like $3 an hour, and it's really cheap to have a scouting department. I don't know. Probably not. They probably make quite a bit of money as NFL scout.
It seems like the Royals might be better off if they just bought a
Yeah.
baseball prospectus
Prospectus Baseball America.
and just gone
Uh,
off that entirely. A lot of times. So on DraftKings Sportsbook, the NFL drafts, first several picks are very heavily skewed towards players that are expected to be drafted where they are. Most all analysts are agreeing with this too. Would you take a minus $20,000 bet, minus 20,000 bet on Caleb Williams at number one to win your $100?
No, I think I would not do that. No, I would.
But it's basically a sure thing. You'd win $100.
Yeah, but you might lose a lot of money, and usually just on $100 on 20,000 is 0.5, is that 4.5% or something like that? I think if you left your money in the bank for, a week or two, even if it's in the bank, I think it would make as much money, make $100 um,
On 20K.
on 20K. Yeah, that seems like that's not a lot of money, right? It's 20, so yeah, 1,000 would be 5%, 100 would be 0.5.
Yeah. But it's for just a few minutes though, essentially. You could go make that bet
Yeah.
possibly right up until
But you could also
Thursday
lose
morning.
everything. So if there was some scandal that happened with Caleb Williams, or maybe the pick was forfeit, and then so they had to move to number two. Like there could be it could be something, maybe some sort of, yeah. I don't know. Or maybe it was just a big maybe the Bears wanted to trade out and they think, oh, we can get we like their second pick. Just we like the other guys just as much. We don't need Williams. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Or would you do it, Dr. Scav?
No, there's no reason to. I was just curious if you were willing to take
Lose
that.
20,000 to make 100. Yeah, no.
Yes.
I think um yeah, that's a bigger risk than I'd want to take, even depends on, I guess it would depend on how much money I had. If in some for some real weird reason, like, if I wanted to be funny and I was like a multi-millionaire, maybe I would do it because it would make $100, and I wouldn't need $100, but it seems um
You needed $100 so you could light your cigar or something.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How about at number two? Jaden Daniels is the projected number two pick at only minus 400 though. Is that more your
Yeah, I don't know if I don't like Jaden Daniels because I saw that. Did you see that picture of his elbow?
now?
Google Jaden Daniels elbow.
Uh-oh. I have him at number two on my
It,
mock draft. Is this going to change my opinion?
it might.
Well, that doesn't look right.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Doesn't that look creepy?
Something's not right with the image, though. It has to be.
You hope.
Why does it look like it's attached?
Yeah, I don't know what it looks, but like he's got in some of his other pictures, he's got some weird thing on his elbow too. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that has me down on Jaden Daniels, maybe for right or for wrong. So I'm thinking that Drake May would be the second pick, and that Daniels is a possibility of slipping farther down, maybe even past New England. That is my that's my off the wall bet.
So you might not take that because you don't think he's necessarily going to be drafted at number two.
No, I think Drake May might be number two. There's also something about the Jane Daniels taking a draft visit to the Commanders, and he wasn't by himself. He was with some other players, and he didn't like that because he wasn't like it wasn't like just for him. And
Hmm.
people think that might have shown that maybe the Commanders are a little sour on him. I don't know. They didn't invite him to a kind of a lone um, meeting or something like that. So I'm reading these tea leaves, and I'm not. So it seems like Jay Daniels was the person they thought would be um, number two, but now I'm going to say Drake May. And I don't think he's very good. I think Drake May is the next Daniel Jones, basically. But who knows?
And let's see,
Just
he's at North Carolina,
yeah.
guy, right?
Or it could
So
be Trubisky. He could also be and Trubisky was the last North Carolina quarterback that kind of came out of nowhere. But I think he's a Trubisky or somebody in that. Daniel Jones is kind of high end. Daniel Jones with the Duke. So I'm thinking of North Carolina, tall white North Carolina,
the state of
state
the
North
state of
Carolina quarterbacks in the
yeah,
past few years.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So do you think there will be like a big trade for somebody to move like into the top five like on draft day, or do you think it's going to be relatively quiet at the top of the draft board?
Whatever I say is going to be wrong. I know. So I'm going to say there will be trades. Uh, and I don't know if anyone will jump into the top. I could see New England as part of my Jaden Daniels not being the guy. I could see New England trading down because New England used to always trade down. Uh, and maybe they think that they can find a quarterback or they can do okay with um, Zappy and Brissett. Did they bring Brissett back? Who was New England's quarterback?
Brissett is in New England, yeah.
Yeah, he was bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's relatively likely that New England may look for a quarterback in this draft then too, don't you think?
They have Bailey Zappi, Jacoby Brissett, and Nathan Rourke, but they could maybe think they're going to drop back and they can get JJ McCarthy or somebody like that. Bo
Later
Nix,
in the round one or day two.
Michael Penix, uh, Jr.
But and Bo Nix, I think, is in that same era. Penix and Nix.
Nix and Penix. Yeah, Nix and Penix are seen as the number 5 and 6 quarterback in some order. I think because it seems like McCarthy is solidly gotten number 4 or maybe even higher in some people's minds. Um, so I can see Jaden. I don't know. I don't know why I think of Jaden Daniels. I mean, it's just that elbow picture that I think is really weird looking. I'm mostly scared off by that. I wouldn't pick a guy whose elbow could look like that, even if it was inaccurate or somewhat inaccurate, misleading. I'm gonna say misleading to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, so, here's a couple of DraftKings odds. See which bet you would take in these scenarios.
Okay,
Total quarterbacks selected in the first round, over under 4.5.
over.
How about defensive linemen, including edge players, selected in the first round, over under 6.5?
I'm gonna say under.
It's probably gonna be really close.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's 6
Running backs, over under 1/2
in the first round. Under
first round. You think none in the first round?
in the first round.
It's like somebody will go like late. Wouldn't you think? Like last year, we were surprised. Like there were multiple teams
John
moved.
Robinson and Jameer Gibbs.
Yeah, yeah, because Detroit, yeah, even like went really early, like seventh or eighth or something like that, wasn't
Yeah,
it? When
John
they
was like early, even earlier. He's like 5, I think, or something.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll throw the 3 of those guys, or those 2 guys. But I don't think they have. I think it's more like the Clyde Edwards-Helaire draft, where the running back is probably not going to go for that early, and the Chiefs end up picking last. So I hope it's well. I would hope it's not the Chiefs picking a first round running back. That would probably be my worst nightmare.
they could. They've done that before.
They've done
Pick
it
a
with
guy
Edwards-Helaire,
good.
who's back on the roster. So they would have 2 number 32 overall running backs.
Yes,
I think they might draft a running back in the 3rd round or lower.
or
But
lower. Yeah, maybe like seventh round even, right? So
yeah, they got Pacheco 7th, and I think they're yeah. I don't know how they feel about their other guys beyond Pacheco and Edwards-Helaire. So I don't. There's P Ryan maybe back, or I don't know. They haven't caught McKinnon. McKinnon hasn't been re-signed. So it's yeah. I don't know what
He's
they
still
think.
out there, I think, right? He's not been signed anywhere, I don't think.
I don't know what they think of their running back depth. So
Yeah. It seems like they'll probably do something, whether it's another free agent pickup or somewhere around early in the season, not the season, but the preseason when some players become available
yeah.
or after draft day even. So how about this last one from DraftKings?
Okay.
Draft day trades the over under number 6.5.
I would say under.
It doesn't say, it actually doesn't say first round.
It's
This
first.
it does just say draft day trades. So I guess maybe it could be all 3 days.
If it's all 3 days, it's going to be way over.
Way over, right?
Yeah, so it's got to be first day.
You would think that it would have to be first day, but it doesn't say first day. It doesn't say first round.
Hmm.
It just says draft day. It must have just mean, I would assume it means just the draft on the day of the draft, and that's 3 days.
I can't see it meaning that because I would be the easiest bet to make. It
But there
seems like
there is a category for first round props, and it's not in that.
that's weird.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, that's really weird.
Yeah. But we will have our picks in before the draft, and then we will see how we do compared to some of the experts as we did last year. We did all
Yeah,
right. We held our own, I think, last year against the experts, Mike.
we did hold our own against the experts because we looked at other experts and it's sort of I think it's one of those things where I think everybody just looks at everybody else's drafts and kind of builds it that way, this consensus. And I
Yeah.
don't know how much inside information any of these guys have. Um, so
One
I
one of the guys that we did look at last year um was Todd McShay. He's decided not to do.
well, no, Todd McShay was no longer employed by ESPN.
Yeah, but he's not doing them elsewhere either,
He's
apparently.
not. Okay.
So it's not just ESPN that's keeping him from doing
Yeah.
mock drafts. Like wherever he is now, he's not doing mock drafts, I
Yeah,
think.
maybe he's not. I don't know where he is. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd think even if he wasn't employed at all, he would still be doing them on his own time, would you think?
Maybe.
People have at least know his name enough to know he's
Yeah.
doing the draft stuff, so you'd think they'd still
Yeah,
do
I'm not
it.
sure. Maybe he's got something going on. I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway,
well, that's the NFL draft. We'll announce our scores and things we'll have a system that we'll set up and we'll see who did the best in the NFL draft. We also are thinking of predicting, prognosticating the NHL and NBA playoffs, which are underway. The first round's kind of maybe a third of the way through most places, at least as we record this. 2 games have been played, or maybe a lot of series have been either 1 or 2 games played. So, do you have any predictions for? Do you want to talk about NF? Do you want to talk about NHL or NBA first? Hockey or basketball?
maybe first, have you been watching any of these? Do you have a dog in the fight here? Anybody?
In the NHL, I want the Capitals to win because that's my team. In the other ones, I don't really care. I mean, the NBA, I don't really care. Or the Western Conference of the NHL, I don't really care. If I had to pick, I maybe in the NHL, I would want Northern or Canadian teams to win because I want it to be hockey. I want hockey fans to be entertained, and I don't want to see it all be, the Lightning against uh, the
The
Mighty
Golden
Ducks.
Knights and the LA Kings, kind of warm
Yeah,
weather teams.
Carolina Hurricanes. Yeah, yeah, those Florida Panthers type of teams. Um, yeah, we don't need that. Um,
Or do we?
well, so what? So who have you? So who have you? Who do you think is going to? Sure, should I make my picks first? I'll make my picks.
Uh, we're going to start in the NHL, or where do you want to start?
We'll start in the NHL.
Okay. So we've each selected one team from each conference
Hmm.
based on playoff odds from either FanDuel or DraftKings, based on
Yes.
their odds as to who will win the conference. We're not picking the finals winner yet, so we'll have a little bit more immediate
Hmm.
outcomes on these, so we can judge ourselves versus each other.
So in the East, I'm picking. I think they're the number 4 or 5 seed in the East, but they have the best player, Austin Matthews, who had Wayne Gretzky like season this year. So I'm picking the Toronto Maple Leafs, who also have been very star-crossed in their recent and not so recent history. I don't know when was the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Do you know, Dr. Scaff?
It's been a long time. 70s, 80s, 70s, maybe
I think it's 1967.
60s.
Yeah, this is today. This is Toronto's last appearance in the finals. They haven't even made the finals since 1967.
Well, I haven't
So
made the finals yet this year, so
no, so I like the Maple Leafs. Um, they have a 55 season long Stanley Cup drought, so I'm going to pick them. Which probably isn't very smart, but I'm going to pick them as the winners of the Eastern Conference. How about you, Dr. Scaff?
I'm going warm weather
Oh,
with the Florida Panthers in the East. Why? I don't know. I just think it's funny for warm weather teams to win.
trying to stick it to me. So I'm also going northern cold weather for the West. I'm doing the Edmonton Oilers. So I want to see an all Canadian Stanley Cup, which probably hasn't. I don't know when the last time we had an all Canadian Stanley Cup final.
Well, it's been quite a it's the Canadian teams have not been doing terribly well actually for quite a while, and I don't think it's like a Canadian team hasn't really even gone to the finals in recent times even. So
No, um,
it's been quite a while since the Canadian teams I think has even been in the finals. Even though most of the players are Canadian, I think on all of the teams actually.
yeah, most of the players. Let's. I'm gonna just go on the last last Canadian winner. I think it's the Montreal Canadiens in 1993 was the last Canadian winner.
Wow.
Am I looking at this right? It seems insane.
That's 30 years, Mike.
30 years. I think that's right. The Canadiens 1993.
This is like
And
this is like us starting high school, basically.
1989, I think, was the last All Canadian. That was the Calgary Flames defeating the Montreal Canadiens.
Wow. Insane.
Yeah.
So you've got who was it in the West?
Edmonton Oilers.
Edmonton Oilers. What they were plus
Connor
three.
McDavid, who's probably the second best, maybe one of the other best player, uh,
Yes.
the next Gretzky kind of player. So him, yeah. So I think they're plus 300-ish, 330.
330, I think is what I had them at anyway. Yeah. Yes.
I'm going
And
shortest
then,
odds in the West.
and then what's that?
I think are they the shortest odds in the West?
I think if not shortest, they were next shortest. It was awfully close if they weren't.
Golden Knights were second, I think. I think the Golden Knights were second.
Yeah, that sounds right.
How about you, Dr. Scaff?
And
Picking the Golden
the Golden Knights are who I'm going to take just to complete the Michael Warman nightmare
Knights.
final prediction anyway for the two warm weather teams, not just one warm weather team, but two warm
In
weather
good seat, Miami and Las Vegas, the least Canadian cities probably in the United States.
teams. Yes,
Would you say that?
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
Miami was probably one of them. Maybe you might say like Phoenix or Los Angeles, something like that. But yeah. I'm trying to think of NHL, other NHL. Houston, Houston doesn't have a team, so
well,
uh,
now that Arizona is losing their
Salt Lake,
NHL team,
Salt Lake City, yeah.
Utah, will Utah be the least Canadian?
No, they're still kind of boring and Canadian up there. They're, I would say, they're Western. They had the Winter Olympics, so like that's a wintry area. I
True.
think they are. I think they're the least African American of the major American cities. So maybe it's the funniest reason they have the Jazz uh in Utah. They're the least moving from New Orleans. I think Salt Lake City is the least like New Orleans of any uh major American city. So
So do you think that they'll maintain the Coyotes team nickname
I don't
if the team
know.
moves to Utah?
They have Coyotes out there. I think it's an appropriate nickname for those.
Yeah.
Uh
You know, they don't have a tendency to change the nickname as we've seen in basketball. So it's probably not as weird as the LA Lakers, though. That's the one that probably makes the least amount. Yeah, which one makes less sense then, Mike? The LA Lakers, LA known for its numerous number of lakes,
hmm.
or the Utah Jazz?
I'm gonna say the Jazz. I don't know.
Is it just
There aren't any
time
lakes.
for
There aren't any lakes in California, really. Just Great Bear. There's some Lake Tahoe is part of California, Big Bear Lake. You have some lakes in California, and maybe you could say that the ocean is a really, really big lake. Uh, so Minneapolis it fit Minneapolis. I think New Orleans Jazz and Minneapolis Lakers both fit those cities very well, and
yeah.
they're new and they don't fit their new ones very well. I don't know. The Coyotes, it seems like they might change though. I was reading an article that
I think they've registered some trademarks
they
for
registered some trademark. The Utah Yetis perhaps is one of them.
them.
That's hard to say, Utah Yetis, I think.
Yeah.
Utah Yeti. But
I think they'll get I think they'll go more mythical like the Kraken though.
yeah. I So basically, it's going to be Utah something though, because they aren't going to do anything with Salt Lake City.
Right.
I still like the
Or should they just call it like the Utah Hockey Jazz?
hockey jazz. They should be maybe the blue. Maybe, no, it couldn't be the Blues. There's already a hockey team called the Blues. The St. Louis Blues. If they moved to, they should switch the. It should be St. Louis Coyotes now and the Utah
Yeah.
Blues Jazz. So? Would you say Utah Salt Lake City is more of a jazzy city or a bluesy city if they had to pick one? Which is
I mean, maybe they should pick a different form of music to represent the city then for each franchise that they acquire.
Utah? They need to say something like be like the Utah Flautists or something. That would be very uh
Calypso.
something. They need something like classical, the tenors or something like that would be
Oh,
something that would more fit in with Utah's. Maybe because the Tabernacle Choir, they have that group of singers.
right.
Uh, Maybe the choir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Choristers.
I'm gonna go with the Utah ska.
You got reggae.
I mean, that would be very surprising if they just chose that, right?
Yeah.
I think they should do it. They should go for something really abstract and unexpected.
Yeah, the Rastas. That would be the
I mean, when I think Rasta, I think Utah
Yeah,
and hockey specifically.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think it's great. We
yeah.
should do it. How about over in the NBA then? Should we talk about our picks there?
Talk about our picks there. In the NBA, the biggest favorite is the Boston Celtics in the East. And they're, I think, minus money to win the whole thing. So they're the favorites. They've been had good teams in the past, but they've sort of flamed out in the playoffs. Last year, I think they were the number one seed, and they lost to um, the Heat, right? And on as part of their run to the top.
It,
Or was
very similar to what the Boston Bruins did in the NHL, having the best record in regular season and then losing in the first round. Also, yeah, bad year for Boston fans last summer.
yeah, it was. The Red Sox didn't do so well either. So
Oh,
and the Patriots had a bad team as well. So maybe this was wasn't a good year for those.
they had a run of a lot of success though before that, so it's
Yeah,
only
yeah,
sort of equalizing, I think, more than
yeah.
anything.
You don't want that to happen to the Chiefs, though. So you want
Yeah.
them to stay on top, and the Royals to succeed again. And you know, but so I don't wish ill on the other cities just for karma's sake. But
Yeah.
so I'm actually picking Boston to they're minus 250 to win the East. So it's not a very uh, bold bet. I wouldn't bet $20,000 to win $100, but I will bet $250 to win $100.
I think we got
Uh,
the final odds actually at 230, so you didn't it's not quite as bad as you thought it was. Minus
oh, 230.
230.
It's a 230. We found a 230.
Yeah.
I think FanDuel had 250, so I think
DraftKings got you
DraftKings had
a
230.
better
So I'm
number this
going
time.
with a better number because we're savvy gamblers like that. We go with the better numbers.
We check multiple sports books to shop our
At least
best
at
pick.
least two,
Yes.
two big ones.
Shopping. Yes. I don't want to bet on the Celtics though, so I'm going to take the New York Knickerbockers at plus 600, even though they also have a history of flaming out of the playoffs if they even make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Knicks haven't won a NBA Finals since very early 70s. So it's been 50 years probably since the Knicks have won anything. At least the Celtics, they won one title with Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce uh,
Yeah.
in like 08-ish or something like that. Uh, they hadn't really been great since the 80s before that. So they have a little bit, and they've had solid success, playoff success the last few years, whereas the Knicks have just been bad until very recently.
Well, they
So
haven't been anywhere near the playoffs, even though like so many teams make the playoffs in the NBA. They had some good teams with Patrick Ewing in the
that was the mid
80s.
90s. Yeah, that's
That
30 years
was
now.
yeah. I don't think they didn't win titles though. I don't
No,
think.
they lost twice. They lost.
Yeah,
Uh, I think lose twice to the Rockets in the finals.
I think so.
Yeah,
It sounds right. Yeah,
John Starks and Patrick Ewing and Anthony Mason, those guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
Mark Jackson. Trying to think of the other Knicks. Was
I think that's the list. That's the full list of Knicks players from the 80s and 90s.
yeah, I'm sure it was. It's the ones I remember. And yeah, I guess Mark Jackson was off the Knicks, I think, by the time
Mm,
Knicks, made the finals. So I think that he was replaced by John Starks basically as the kind of point guard, uh, looking back at it.
so you're going with Boston. I've got the Knicks in the East. How about in the West?
Out west, I'm going to go with the betting line favorites, but not the seeding favorites. I think the Nuggets are probably have a good shot at going back to the finals. They are the number two seed behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I like I like the Nuggets as the pick. I think they're plus 110.
110, yes.
A little bit of plus money.
Yeah.
Pretty much even money.
Yeah, and I'm going uninteresting and actually just following you and taking the Nuggets also. They dominated the playoffs last year. They weren't close. Like nobody really gave them a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the Lakers sort of made it a little interesting, but it ended up being not really. So the Lakers are facing them right now in their opening round, and Denver has managed to win the first two games of the series. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's going to compete with them. So I would also go with the Nuggets.
Um, yeah, I think that's a good pick. Speaking of Mark Jackson, going back, Mark Jackson's 1990 NBA hoops card is famous not because of him being in it, but because certain celebrities, we might call them celebrities, are sitting in the front row behind him while they're playing the Lakers. The Knicks were at the Lakers. Do you know who these two related celebrities were that are in the background of this Mark Jackson 1990 NBA hoops?
Re-
Uh,
Related to each other, or
related
related to the Lakers?
related to each other.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, you'd think Lakers fans think of like Jack Nicholson,
Hmm.
but you said they're related to each other. I don't know. Jack Nicholson is related to anyone.
No, you might think,
I
oh,
had,
it's or
uh,
there could be a married couple. You maybe also
yeah,
married couple counts as related in my book.
okay.
They aren't married, but I'll tell you that they're married. I could also accept the married. Yeah, you could say it's Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn or somebody when they were together, right? Or
Yeah, but it's LA, so it could really be any Hollywood couple.
yeah,
So
Paul
I
Newman. Yeah.
I don't
These
know.
these are actually brothers, and it's not acting brothers. It's Eric and Lyle Menendez
Oh,
are
really?
the front row of this picture. And apparently that would have been the game that they went to after they allegedly killed their parents. They went to the basketball game that night and sat in the front row, and then I guess came back. So there's a
Well, and so those images are used, taken, sometime during the previous season usually.
yeah.
Did they know about that when like who was in the background of that shot
I don't think
when they
they did at the
printed the
time.
card?
What?
Did you think they knew like when they printed the card
Oh, I don't know. I
that
doubt
they
it.
knew that those guys were famous
I
for
doubt
very
it.
bad reasons?
No, I doubt it. I bet it
Hmm.
was just. I bet somebody discovered it or noticed it like 5 years after or
Like
something.
much later.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even hoops basketball. I don't even remember that being a.
Yeah, NBA hoops. They were. I have some of their
Hmm.
cards. Um,
There they are. I just pulled up the picture.
yeah,
The card's not super expensive. Like you can actually
yeah. It's. I
get it.
want to say I have that card somewhere, but I need. I don't have all my. I don't have access right now to all my old cards. I think Andy probably sold some of them too, so I don't know what I have, but
Do you
I
want me
think
to try to drop by your old house and see if your parents will let me in to
for
go
the
through all your
minute.
cards?
Yeah. I don't. I have some in my. I have some here that I got. My parents gave me, and they were gonna bring me more of my stuff up here. But I have some NBA hoops cards, but I don't seem to have the Mark Jackson one. I thought I did though. It looked like a familiar card to me,
Hmm.
but I don't know if I have it or not.
Wow, that's crazy.
I have not. I did not know the Menendez brothers were on it when I was a kid until I only learned that within the last few months that there's a Menendez
And you
card.
haven't gone out of your way to try to acquire that card somewhere? Have you gone to all the local shops to ask if they have it?
I haven't gone to eBay else or the local shops to see if they have it. You can buy it for $20 or less.
Yeah, there's one on Amazon for 22 bucks.
Yeah, I think eBay you can probably
So
find
now I was
it.
just gonna kick off a new like collecting craze for you, where you try to find cards that have infamous characters in the background.
Yeah, some people are selling it for a lot, but some people are selling it for like 10.95 on eBay, so or $13 on eBay.
It seems like a very niche collector that would be going after these specific cards.
Well, there's like a card. I can't remember. It was somebody dunking on Michael Jordan, and that card was worth a lot of money because Michael Jordan was in it.
His image was on the card,
Um,
so it was more
yeah,
valuable.
yeah.
Wow, that is wild though, with Menendez brothers in the background. That's great.
Well, I don't think we'll top the Menendez brothers on the One Trick Power Hour for a while.
Maybe we'll
Those
we'll find some other cards with like famous murderers in the background.
There's John Dillinger at the Chicago Bears game. Something like that.
That'd be great. Do you have that I mean, maybe that could be a thing.
Ted Bundy at a Dolphins game or something like because
Yeah.
I don't think Miami had the Heat were not around when Ted Bundy was there. So it had to be or like a Bucks game with Jeffrey Dahmer or somebody. Uh,
Right.
some, I'm trying to think
Maybe
of
a Brewers game. Yeah, it could be either one, right? So
yeah, yeah. Basketball maybe is the easiest to have somebody the fans because they sit courtside and they were more likely to be in, really in it. So
yeah, in baseball, it's usually like behind them is sort of like a bit of a blur anyway. So like a guy,
yeah,
you could say, "Oh, that blob is somebody," or "I
yeah,
was in that shot," or something, right?
yeah.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
You wouldn't be able to tell. So yeah, no, but yeah. So, but we'll see if there are any other. We'll be on the lookout for other ones in the next week. We'll also next time on the One Trick Power, we'll talk about our how our bets are going, whether we were eliminated or not already in the NFL, in a NHL or Stanley Cup, uh, NHL or NBA Finals, playoffs. We will also see how well, it's probably what most of you are looking for, how well we did on our NFL draft prognostications and how close we are and how and whether we can become draft experts and hire out our services to I don't know if we'd hire out our services. We just be able to predict what teams are picking what players. I don't know if we aren't necessarily saying which players are going to be the best players. We're just saying which teams we think will pick which players based on what we know of their strengths and probably their weaknesses, their kind of continued idiocy over the years. Especially if they're picking early, we might think, oh, they're going to pick this guy we think is going to be a bust because they'll think he'll be good. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what we'll do for the Giants or the.
I do have Denver moving up and making a somewhat stupid pick, but
Yeah,
so.
I like your dislike of the um Denver Broncos. It doesn't extend to your Denver Nuggets. You're betting on the Denver Nuggets.
They're not the Broncos. I don't have anything against the NBA teams.
The city of Denver is not your enemy. It's simply
The
the,
Broncos themselves, yeah.
the Broncos themselves, their contingent.
Yeah.
Well, we won't continue to besmirch the Broncos' good name on
Well, that was like like Elway tried to like had like a furniture store or something that they were trying to sell stuff in Kansas City, and that didn't do
or a
well.
car dealership, maybe. I can't
That too. I think
remember.
both of those things actually. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like these aren't going to do well. Like Kansas
Boo.
City, it is not like Elway or the Broncos. Like it's not.
Patrick Mahomes will open a chain of Whataburgers in
In Denver,
oh, Patrick Mahomes is Whataburger.
right? It'd be great.
Or
Funny.
Patrick Mahomes, or he buys Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. He's gonna be Patrick Mahomes is Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Yes, sounds great.
I think that's what I would do if I would want to buy Ruth's Chris and call it my apostrophe S Ruth's Chris,
Yes, just add more apostrophe, more possessives.
and then sell it to different people. And then, like if I were like a rich guy, we could pass it around to different people. They would each add their
Just tack on
names.
another name.
Yeah.
Yes.
When people stopped going to Ruth's Chris if its name was getting comically longer, or would this cause people to go to the restaurant since it had such a comically strange, like let's say that the quality hasn't changed, it's a very good restaurant. Or
You measure prestige in the number of names in the title of the restaurant.
And it needs to be something also hard to say because it's Ruth's Chris is difficult. It's got those THs and S's.
Yes.
Like Bruce's Ruth's Chris or something like it would need to be something along those lines, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
perfect.
yeah,
Make it happen, Mike. You can do it.
yeah. I will. Yeah. Ruth's, yeah, something with yeah. Griffiths, Ruth's. That would add an extra difficult sound. Uh, I think.
This is all very vexing, really, is what it is.
So if Andy Griffith bought this, the estate of Andy Griffith bought Ruth's Chris, that would be
Perfect.
a little bit like the King of the Hill, where Sugarfoot's barbecue became Peggy's Sugarfoot's. Do you remember?
No. Great.
Anyway, no, well. This has been a another exciting episode of the One Trip Power Hour. So we'll sign off since we've wasted everybody's time talking about the direction we take Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Um, but
I think you mean we've enriched everyone's time.
yeah, that's what we mean. That's what we've really done that here tonight. It's been entertaining and informative and enlightening and edifying. So we've really covered all the bases. Um, and as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Track Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcasts, and we thank you for being our listeners or our viewers. And we'll see you again next time. Until then, we bid you good day.